Do you want to set a $5,000 limit for giving to political action committees that spend money independently to support or defeat candidates for office? So, Randy, can you tell us a little bit about what that means and what does question one do and how did it get on the ballot?
Absolutely. Well, if a vote of yes on question one will set a new limit on the amount of money that people and businesses can contribute to a political action committee that is looking to influence the election of a candidate. Um, that distinction is important because this limit would not apply to the committees controlled by the political parties or committees formed to advocate for the defeat or passage of a referendum question. So essentially, what it would do is any political action committee that makes an independent expenditure advocating for the defeat or election of a candidate, an individual would be limited to $5,000 donation to that committee. Um, and people might be wondering what an independent expenditure might be. So these are groups that are not affiliated with any candidate or any campaign. Anyone can form a political action committee and try to influence an election. So these are ads that they're taking out and putting up solely by their own doing. It was placed on the ballot by a group of citizens. They went out and collected thousands of signatures to get this on the ballot. And it was motivated by just the massive amounts of money that are flooding our elections, especially since 2010 with the US Supreme Court ruling on Citizens United versus the FEC. That decision really just basically said, you can't put any limits on spending on campaigns because it's an infringement on free speech.
And then what are people saying about this question? Have you heard that there's any opposition to it?
Well, I mean, I think naturally there will be opposition to this, and it'll be the folks who have a lot of money and have a lot at stake with who gets put into office. Right now, there isn't any organized committee that's working against this, but there is a group of citizens called Citizens to End Super PACs, and they are the advocates for this question. Um, that doesn't mean, a group won't pop up later and dump, millions of dollars into this or, hundreds of thousands to try to defeat it. But as of now, nothing organized at this point.
And I always like to ask if there's a cost associated with referendums. Is there any cost with putting this in place?
Yeah, I think the major cost, if voters were to approve this, would come in the form of a legal challenge. The advocates fully expect that if this passes in Maine, that it will be taken to court. And that's actually the whole purpose of this. What they want to do is run this up through the courts and get it past federal appeals court and hopefully get it before the U.S. Supreme Court. So what this decision will do is it won't necessarily overturn Citizens United, which dealt more with the amount of money a PAC can spend to influence an election. They're trying to get it on the other end, and they're trying to reduce the amount of money that an individual can contribute to these PACs. So what happened is after the Citizens United decision, a lower appeals court ruled that the limitations for spending, getting rid of those should also apply to people who contribute money to those PACs. That circuit court ruling was never taken up by the Supreme Court, and that's what these advocates want to do in hopes of setting a new national precedent because Maine would be the first state in the nation to adopt such limits since Citizens United. So they're hoping, as Maine goes, so goes the nation.